What the fuck it is? This is episode 6 of the Funkentelechy podcast. We back in the building. Today we're talking about my top 10 albums of all time. Now this list took a very long ass time to narrow down and organize. There are a lot of albums that I wanted to put on here that just didn't make the cut. I narrowed it down to a select few that I could personally listen to the whole way without skipping any tracks, with the exception of interludes and skits. Well, no bullshit, man. Let's get into it. Number 10, Stankonia by Outkast. Everyone knows this shit, man. So fresh and so clean. Sorry, Miss Jackson. Bombs Over Bad Dad. Straight up classic. This is definitely Outkast's most experimental album. Their sound is all over the place. You got rap, you got soul, you got jazz, you got wild ass jungle music, but it all comes together. Dre and Big Boy managed to create their own unique style. Outkast is something the fuck else because they always took pride in being some weird out there motherfuckers. But they still got a lot of people to listen to them, and they had something that both underground and mainstream audiences can listen to and unify over. Only thing I don't really like about this album is that every other goddamn track is an interlude. But other than that, 16 tracks, all gold. Some of my personal favorites are Red Velvet, Snapping and Trapping, We Love These Hoes, and the last track, Stained Love. Their lyricism and creative beats is what really stood out to me on this album. Even more so than their previous efforts. It's as if the Outkast sound got more, for lack of better terms, like chaotic. Like as they kept making albums, they gradually arrived at a sound that truly represents them as a group and the aesthetic that they had always been, trying to achieve with the release of Stankonia. Alright, number 9, 7 Days of Funk by Snoop Dogg and Dame Funk. Now, Dame Funk is a funk music producer coming out of Pasadena, California. He's on some Zapp and Roger, George Clinton type ass shit. A big part of the LA funk and disco scene that's rarely talked about. Him and Snoop met at some event, and they just got together and decided to make a funk album. Here we see Snoop getting back to his G-Funk roots for all the punk motherfuckers who think he sold out. Pretty short album, 7 tracks for 7 days, plus a bonus track called Systematic featuring the Dog Pound. It's my shit right there. Now, each song is the shit in my opinion. My absolute favorite track is Let It Go, fucking love the chorus, followed by Systematic and Niggas Hit the Pavement. And my words don't really do these tracks justice. You really need to go and just listen to them. Dame Funk's production is second to none and has a uniquely old school sound to it, but still managing to sound timely and current, you know what I'm saying? The shit is just serene, feel good, chill out funk that makes you feel like you just stepped on the goddamn mothership and you're soaring through the stars, not giving two shits, man. Just vibing. Number 8, The Chronic by Dr. Dre. This fucking album right here, this album set the stage for some of the greatest music, in my opinion, to be created. The Chronic opened the door for Snoop Dogg, Daz, Corrupt, Nate Dogg, Warren G, the whole Death Row family, and Long Beach in general. Dr. Dre single-handedly revolutionized West Coast hip-hop and gave it an identity and a unique sound that no one else could touch. Let Me Ride, The Day the Niggas Took Over, Dre Day, and Stranded on Death Row, just some of my favorites. And even though, I don't really fuck with interludes, I thought the $20 Stack Pyramid was hilarious. Dre wasn't fucking around when he produced this shit. He took the old P-Funk samples and he G'd them the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? Just aggressive ass in your face shit. And everybody rapping wasn't pulling no punches either. Here you have, you have a very young Snoop Dogg, a very young Dog Pound, etc., getting their foot in the door, spitting some fire here and there. To see these artists at a time when they're new, fresh, and most importantly, hungry is an insight like none other, man. When artists spit with that hunger, it's a quality that kind of deteriorates over time with sales and success. But on The Chronic, you can tell everyone is just giving 100%, inspired by The Chronic itself. There's also a lot of political themes on here talking about the disenfranchisement of black people and the LA riots that went down the same year, kind of expanded on the controversy that NWA exposed the nation to 4 years prior. So The Chronic has everything, man. Brilliant production, new young artists, and a voice, a very potent voice. But a revolutionary album. The Chronic 2001 gets an honorable mention as well. That was Dr. Dre's fuck you to everyone who said he fell off and this and that. You got the next episode, Forgot About Dre, I Just Want to Fuck You, The Watcher, What's the Difference Between Me and You, Bang Bang, Bitch Niggas. I know a lot of people I can dedicate that fucking song to. And My personal favorite, Explosive, featuring Corrupt, Nate Dogg, and 6'2". 6'2 is a cold motherfucker, man. Underrated as shit. Coming out of Fort Worth, Texas. The only reason the Chronic 2001 is not on this list is because it's not something that I can really listen to straight through like the first Chronic. There's some tracks I just can't get into, and there's too many interludes and shit talking. And for the record, Detox is never coming the fuck out if you didn't know already. Dre is fucking set for life after coming out with his headphones and that $1 billion deal with Apple. Like he said on War and Peace by Ice Cube back in 2000, I don't need to make another album, bitch. I don't gotta do shit. You know what I'm saying? Alright. Number 7, Bass Boys by The Pack. This is just a straight up party album. The Pack is an underrated ass fucking group. Just 4 kids from Berkeley, all about having a good time and partying and stunting in the club. Just that kind of shit. Young L, Lil Uno, Stunner Man, and the infamous Lil B. Now, before Lil B started doing all the crazy bass god shit, he was in this group, and he had good flow. You know, everybody in the group had their own style, but they were all basically, you know, about the same shit. The beats are fucking catchy as shit. Young L has a very, like, electro, almost like retro video game sound to his production. It's hard to describe, but easy to identify. It's kind of minimalist in nature. Like, sometimes all he needs is like a synth wave and a little percussion, like on that song At the Club, and he got a slapper, you know what I'm saying? My favorite tracks are, well, pretty much all the songs are good, but if I had to pick a few, it would be the first song, Rumble, Booty Bounce Baku, At the Club, Fly, that shit's catchy as fuck, and I'm Shining. I had burned my mom a copy of Bass Boys, and she be leaning into that shit, you know what I'm saying? Just an album that's nothing but fun from start to finish. No heavy shit, just straight up party music. Shit that make you bob your head and go dumb from the first track to the last. Bass Boys, that's that shit. Alright, now it was impossible for me to pick between these next 2 albums. I tried to do a process of elimination by picking my favorite tracks from each album, and whichever album had the most tracks won, but they both ended up having 9 tracks I liked the most, so I just said fuck it. So yeah, number 6, ATLiens and Aquemini by Outkast. Remember what I said about Outkast finding their sound? They were going through a very formative period here. Big Boy was still the same player pimp he had always been, and his rhymes grew as he did. But Andre 3000 had a huge epiphany, and he stopped smoking weed and drinking, and went on this huge journey of like self-discovery and Afrocentrism, and it really unlocked his true potential as an artist. Started fucking with Erykah Badu, started doing that fucking voodoo on him. You know what I'm saying? He really shines on these 2 albums. Him and Big shine in 2 different ways, and it just comes together flawlessly. In ATLiens, their sophomore album, they created a sound way different from their debut. And on Return of the G, on Aquemini, they addressed what people was complaining about, how like they were some pimps at first, then all of a sudden they space aliens. I mean, they went under changes. People go through changes. They were young men at the time. I don't even think they were 21 when ATLiens dropped. So they were still in the midst of finding themselves both as artists and just men in general. But onto the actual music itself, some of my favorite songs from ATLiens are Elevators, both the regular version and the OMP 86 remix. Wheels of Steel, 2 Dope Boys in a Cadillac. 13th Floor, Growing Old. Oh, that song gets me every damn time I hear it, man. Wildin', Millennium. And this album just gets me in this mode I can't describe. Like, I feel like they truly did become outcasts and live up to their name, you know, once they underwent the changes that they did. And on Aquemini, they pretty much solidified that, you know what I'm saying? Like, by that time that they came out with Aquemini in 1998, their sound was official. And my favorite tracks off of that are Skewed on the Barbie with Raekwon, Aquemini, of course, the title track, Spody Odie Dopalicious, West Savannah. Oh, fuck. That was a leftover from their first album. I fucking love West Savannah. Synthesizer featuring George Clinton, you know, just fucking timeless shit, man. Just both of these albums are amazing and just they nothing short of art, dude. They just something else. Alright, number 5, The Dogfather by Snoop Doggy Dogg. This was his second album after his solo debut. This album is a shit, man. It was a big middle finger to everyone saying, oh, Snoop can't do anything without Dr. J producing. He's gonna sound like shit. Get the fuck out of here, man. Daz and DJ Pooh produced most of these tracks, if I remember correctly. Snoop has always been a funk and soul type of dude, and you can hear that shit all throughout the album. What's that one song? Tear 'Em Off. Me and my dogs, I love that shit. Snoop Bounce. Woo! I love some Snoop Bounce. Dogfather, the title track. You thought you had my rip. It's my fucking shit, man. 2001. All I want to do is make the whole crowd bounce. And of course, Snoop's Upside Your Head. And those are some of my favorite tracks, but of course I like all of them. Another song I really like, Gold Rush featuring Corrupt and the LBC crew. It's a song with like the Old West theme. It's tight ass shit, man. This album came out of a very chaotic time at Death Row. Snoop had just got acquitted of murder after a trial that went on for 3 years. Dr. Dre left the label. I think him and Suge Knight got into it. Tupac had died that same year, which pretty much meant that Death Row was over. So Snoop and the rest of the crew had been through a world of shit before this album came out, and it still fucking sounds good. Snoop didn't lose a step from his first album, even though he didn't have Dre backing him up. He still had all his Long Beach homeboys with him, and he created a fucking masterpiece. And after this album was released, Death Row was done for, so Snoop signed with No Limit. Now, Snoop and No Limit is like pizza and chocolate. They're good on their own, but they don't go together for shit. So the first album he put out with them was just not good, but his next 2 albums on No Limit were really good. He was able to reunite with Dre and his old label mates, so that's good. But I digress, man. The Dogfather was just a great album to come out of a very difficult time in Snoop's life and career. And from the sound of it, you wouldn't even think that, Pac died or Snoop was on trial for 3 years. Just dope ass shit, man, from start to finish. This album is just fire. Straight up fire. Number 4, West Coast Gangsta Shit by Daz Dillinger and Dub C. This is the hardest motherfucking album to come out recently. These niggas are straight up OGs in the game, and they ain't afraid to let your punk ass know. I feel like this is an album that you can't review. You just take it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? I hate when music journalists try to examine the content of like rap albums, as art, and then try to criticize the artist for being lowbrow and not expanding their subject matter beyond guns, drugs, bitches, and money. And that's they one. That's the same line every time. It's like, who gives a fuck? What do you expect? You really think niggas are gonna go from talking about bucking niggas with a desert eagle to fucking literary analysis and contemporary Baroque theater and shit? It's like, it's not to say that they aren't capable, but who gives a fuck? You know what I'm saying? It's like, save that shit for artists who actually give a damn. These are just niggas making music about what they know. Stop reviewing it like it's a goddamn thesis paper. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, West Coast Gangsta Shit is a fucking classic. Rarely do I purchase hard copies of albums I like. I march right down to the fucking FYE in my local mall, and I got this bitch in my earliest convenience. This album is the shit, man. My favorite tracks are Late Night, Stay Out the Way, When the Shit Goes Down, Moves I Make, but I like every track, you know what I'm saying? This is an album you can play without skipping anything at all. Just straight up pimp shit. These niggas still got they fucking khakis and chucks on, slapping in another clip and dumping on your bitch ass. 13 tracks of firepower start to finish. And number 3, Balancing Options by DJ Quick. I have a very, very close relationship with this album. My parents bought it back in 2000, so I've been listening to it ever since then. Pretty much have the whole thing memorized throughout my entire childhood. Every single track is a hit. DJ Quick is one of the best producers to ever fucking do it, and he can spit with the best of them. Just a cool ass motherfucking dude, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's so many tracks on this album that I like. I can't just pick favorites, you know what I'm saying? It's as if the whole album melted together into one big song after hearing it for so many years, and the shit is just legendary. Some tracks that particularly stand out, though, are Quicker Said Than Done, remake of Easier Said Than Done by Eazy-E, Roger's Groove, a tribute to Roger Troutman, who had died around the time the album came out. I think his brother killed him on some fucked up shit. Yeah, he was from the group Zapp and Roger, and he taught DJ Quick how to use the talk box, so, they were close. Quick's Groove 5, which is an instrumental track. You got guest appearances by Mossberg, rest in peace, AMG, Big Pimpin' Sugar Free, etc., etc. But if you ask me, every single song is memorable, and I fucking love this album. Has a lot of sentimental value to me personally. Once again, my words cannot do this shit justice. You need to go listen to it as soon as you can. Alright, number 2, Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music by Outkast. This was Outkast's debut album. They were like my age when they released this shit. fucking classic. I cannot emphasize how much this album is the shit, man. You got that unique Outkast style at its earliest stage. They were still up on some player pimp shit, talking about Cadillacs, shotguns, sipping Martell and Coke, blowing Indo. The trip thing about this album is that it has like a southern take on G-Funk. It don't sound like East Coast at all, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like Dre or Daz. It's just a unique brand of southern funk with guitars and organs. You just can't fuck with it. My Intro to Let You Know just fucking kicks you in the head as soon as the album starts, followed by Ain't No Thing But a Chicken Wing, and then the title track, Players Ball, the original, Claim It True. Funky Ride just comes out of nowhere, just a fucking slow, syrupy fucking panty melter of a track, man. Then you got Get Up, Get Out, and Get Something, Crumbling Herb, Hootie Hoo. I just can't fucking pick any favorite tracks off this album. Like I said about Balance and Options, I treat it all like one big ass song. And so today, because the whole album seems to be mixed together into one track. Like all the interludes and everything tie into each other. They weren't fucking around. Yeah, like I was saying when I was talking about ATLiens and Aquemini, this was before Andre 3000 and Big Boy went on that big journey of self-discovery, so they were still making, run-of-the-mill gangster rap. But their lyricism, it surpassed what other niggas were doing at the time. And these dudes were only 18, 19 years old at the time, spitting like some seasoned veterans. That's the thing that makes this album so great to me. It's gangsta G-Funk, but with a sense of maturity that you really couldn't find anywhere else. And, you know how I talked about artists being hungry when they first come out and spitting with that hunger, prime example right here. But the craziest thing about Outkast was that they actually got better as they released more albums. I feel like they didn't really start going downhill until Speaker Bots and The Love Below came out. Still both very good albums with a handful of memorable tracks, but I feel like Dre got a little too creative on Love Below, and I didn't really like it that much. Ottawa I didn't really fuck with. So yeah, their first four albums only reflected an increase in skill, and with their very first album being my second favorite album of all time, I should tell you a lot about them as a group. And my number one absolute favorite album of all time, Doggy Style by Snoop Doggy Dogg. I think it's safe to say Snoop Dogg is my favorite rapper of all time, man. He's just a cool ass nigga with a laid back style and an old soul. Even as a young cat, he loved that pimp shit and that P-Funk shit, and so do I. This was his chance to show the world what he was made of after his debut on The Chronic. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like the fastest selling rap album at the time of its release. And for good reason. This shit is fucking legendary, man. Nothing short of legendary. It's a continuation of that characteristic West Coast G-Funk sound that was perfected on The Chronic. I'm sure you guys have all heard the controversy over who actually produced the album, Dre or Daz. I think it was probably half and half. Like, Dre probably did a whole track, then Daz did a whole track. And like Daz probably produced the foundation for some tracks, and then Dre came and expanded on them, and vice versa. But in any case, this whole album is the shit, man. Gin and Juice, everybody knows that shit. Lottie Dottie, tribute to Slick Rick. Murder Was the Case That They Gave Me. That shit hit me hard when I first listened to it. Serial Killer, Wake Up in the Morning, Eat Your Lucky Charm cereal. What's My Motherfucking Name? I still remember the music video where he turned into a Doberman and ran up out the house. All My Niggas and My Bitches. That was a really good ass track by The Dog Pound and Rage. Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None. And my personal favorite, Doggy Dog World, featuring The Dog Pound and the Fabulous Dramatics. You got Snoop. You got my second favorite rap group of all time next to Outkast. And you got my favorite oldies group of all time, The Dramatics. My mom told me about this old videotape of my Uncle Joe and his friends, all the old players, and they would see walking to this song. I wish I could have seen that shit, man. But what else? I had G's and Hustlers. This is for the G's and this is for the Hustlers. This is for the Hustlers. Now back to the G's. And the last track of the whole album, Pump Pump, probably the best final track on any album ever, if you ask me. Classic ass shit, legendary, something I'll bump until the day that I die, no questions asked. And that's it, my top 10 albums of all goddamn time. Like I said, there were a lot of albums that didn't make the cut, so I'll just rattle them off right here. All Eyes on Me by Tupac. Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. 1 in a Million by Aaliyah, rest in peace. Corruption by Corrupt. The Streets is a Mother by Corrupt. That album has some of the greatest guest verses by the DPGC crew. Greatest Funkin' Hits by George Clinton. Word of Mouth by Ludacris, fucking classic. The Chronic 2001, already mentioned that. Uncle Jam Wants You by Funkentelechy. Not Just Knee Deep is one of the best songs ever made. Quick is the Name by DJ Quick. The Shadiest One by Dub C. Deuces and Trays the Old Fashioned Way by the East Siders, my nigga Battle Cat. Live Love ASAP by ASAP Rocky. Some of the greatest hip hop production ever. Clams Casino is fucking legendary. Thai Beats ain't no joke neither. The Blueprint 2 by Jay-Z and the Blue Carpet Treatment by Snoop Dogg. Anything by Ice Cube, and some more I can't think of. So, that's it for this episode. Stick around for episode 7. I'm done with sports. Coming next Friday on the world famous Funkentelechy podcast. Y'all have a good one. I'm out.